going to keep growing, Twitch? Because you've been on a rocket ship ride to the freaking moon in terms of your numbers, in terms of your concurrent viewers. 2 million concurrent viewers on average in Q2 of this year was unbelievable. Why are you declining a little bit right now? Are you going to go away, Twitch? Are you going to die? All in this episode of the Digital Drop Podcast, we're going to analyze, is there a growth opportunity on Twitch? Is it going up or down? Is politics going to take over and just chatting going to take over this platform? What does the future look like in 2021? All right here, Digital Drop Pod. This podcast is sponsored by Restream. All right, why live stream to one platform when you can simultaneously live stream to every platform to discover new audiences faster using Restream.io?
So they say in order to know the future, you have to understand the past. So, I know, right? Because of 2020, everything's kind of up in the air in 2020 because of COVID and how it impacted all the different streaming platforms. So to talk about the future, let's take 2020 out of the occasion real quick, AWOL, and let's look at 2018. Starting at Q3 down here on the average CCV. Now it does increase throughout 2018 and then into 2019, but in Q4 of 2019 there is a little bit of a dip, and then in Q1 it does bounce back a little bit. Now I believe that the end of Q1 right here, where I'm kind of circling with my mouse, I don't have the parent pen, but I believe that this number right here was actually a combination of pre-COVID and then when COVID really started to hit. So that's where you see the decline.
So what Ross is referring to here is moving in from the end of 2019 into the beginning of 2020, the average concurrent viewership on Twitch increased from 1.2 million up to 1.4 million before the virus hit. So it was on the way up, namely because of esports events that were happening at the time that really boosted the numbers. It was the peak esports season. But then what happened after that once COVID hit? 1.4 million up to
2,343,448 average CCV, which is just a ridiculous number. Obviously, the graph shows you that. I think the question here is which is, I guess, which strikes you more? That because of COVID, which I think is a caveat here, that we saw this massive increase right here, or is it right here, AWOL, this decrease on Q3 2019 into Q4 2019, where there actually was starting to be a dip? So is there an argument that COVID actually stopped Twitch from going on this downward spiral? I'm sure it would have been a long-term spiral, but did COVID help save it? And I guess then the other question would be, how many of these 2,343,000 people, down obviously a little bit now, how many of them are actually going to stay around once COVID ends? I think those are the two questions to focus on right now.
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you look at this chart, guys, you see that peak there of 2.3 million concurrent viewers. That is the total size of the pie that is available to everyone on Twitch. It went down to 2.1 million, which is not slouchy, in Q3. So I think that the Twitch chart here is going to be directly proportional to the number of cases and deaths of COVID-19 over time. And I think if you plot those two next to each other, and in the US, this is a huge factor, but globally as well. And if you plot those two next to each other, you're going to see a direct correspondence of those two. So COVID cases and deaths peaked in Q2 of 2020. And so concurrent viewership on Twitch peaked at Q2 of 2020. Then it decreased as you move into Q3 because it was summertime and the virus went away naturally because the world was warmer, especially in North America. Now, as we move into Q4 2020, I think the concurrent viewership is going to go up because COVID cases are going up. And then I think we are going to see this number either plateau or spike as we move into Q1 of 2021, as all the scientists have predicted that COVID-19 is going to globally skyrocket. It's flu season. It's winter. There's no vaccine. None of that's here yet. And even if it was, the vaccine will hit summer 2021 at the earliest. So I know you guys don't want to hear about COVID-19 right on our podcast, but at the end of the day, Twitch follows the entire industry. Whatever the entire industry is doing in terms of live streaming, Twitch reflects those numbers over time. And I think because COVID-19 is probably going to reach its peak in Q4 2020 and Q1 2021, Twitch is actually going to benefit from COVID basically going completely off the rails and having the maximum number of cases and deaths of all time. And so I expect Twitch to grow significantly. And the worst thing to happen to Twitch numbers wise is going to be when a COVID vaccine hits and then COVID-19 starts to decline as a virus on a global level. That's the way I'm thinking about it. The numbers so far have reflected that theory.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning right now too. Let me ask you this, and again, I hate bringing up COVID on this podcast, but we have to. I want to go back here again because I think
when the live streaming industry doubles all of a sudden in 6 months, you have to talk about COVID. Like the concurrent viewership on Twitch went from 1.2 million to almost 2.4 million in 6 months. So the industry doubled because of this virus. So you have to talk about the virus. It is the factor that blew this industry up. Let's be honest.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, looking at Q4 2019 right here. Let's take COVID out of the equation. What do you think would have happened to Twitch in 2020?
I think it would have plateaued. I think it would have stayed at about 1.2 to 1.4 million, and it would just continued on this middling path of growth. Maybe by the end of the year, it'd be at 1.3 million. So Twitch grew by about 80% or so overall on average because of the virus. But let's compare. That's a great question. Let's compare this concurrent viewership, though. We always like to look at the competition. So if you scroll up, here's what the competition looked like at the same time. Give us a recap here. I mean, at the beginning of the year, how many streamers were there, Ross? Run us through these numbers. Everybody needs to understand how preposterous the competition is on Twitch.
Okay, so it's difficult to say because we're going to be looking at the beginning of the year right between this line right here. So probably it's at the beginning of the year, it's not going to be too much more than the 4,500,000 plus. And then obviously Q1, like we talked about, that was pre-COVID and the beginning of COVID. That obviously skyrocketed by about 1.3 million. And then Q2 hit, and that is a $4.2 million million channel. I wish million channel increase, and then it's still continuing to grow. Now, the last number we saw was 10,570,000. So that is steep. That is certainly not a good sign for competition, is it?
No, that is a terrible sign for competition. So basically, that we threw out a lot of numbers at you, but it's real simple. It looks like this: the Twitch live streaming competition went from about 5 million concurrent streamers each month on average being your competition prior to COVID. After COVID, it's now 10 million. So competition doubled. The viewership went up by about 80%, and then the competition doubled. And so breaking through on Twitch became, if it was impossible before, it is literally mathematically double impossible now in terms of breaking through on the platform. So what this tells us is that it's basically par for the course, actually, on Twitch. Basically, competition went up by about double. Viewership went up by about double on Twitch. Nothing really changed if you're a small streamer or a growing streamer trying to break through on Twitch. It was pretty much little to no growth before, and it's little to no growth now. So I think overall, the platform is just going to continue to be in the spot where the amount of competition versus the amount of viewership is going to kind of be in line with each other over time as COVID-19 continues to ravage the planet. That's just the way it's going to be. And I think those numbers are going to continue to go up as more and more people lose their jobs and more people get infected, go on quarantine, etc. It's just a numbers game. And so in this case, it's actually quite easy to predict what's going to happen because there are scientists and universities telling us what's going to happen with the virus, and they know a lot more than we do about where the trend lines could go. So let's get into the details a little bit, though, Ross. It's not as simple as there's millions of channels and millions of views. A lot of interesting things have been happening on Twitch that have changed the dynamics of Twitch over time, including the types of games that are being streamed and the insertion of politics, which skyrocketed just chatting as a category on Twitch to the #1 category, dwarfing everything else. We did an episode on this yesterday, dwarfing everything else on Twitch. Politics has never been a bigger part of the global conversation, especially with the election that just happened and Donald Trump taking every news headline there is. So how is this going to impact Twitch and Twitch's growth in the future? How do you see this changing potentially the culture of Twitch? Let me throw that over to you. Just give us a rant on what you think is going to happen with politics on Twitch, because it is currently dominating the platform. I cannot hear you right now. Keep talking. Keep talking.
Going to play a huge future in Twitch. There's just not going to be a way around it. However, there are not too many people out there like AOC, even politicians, no matter who they are, that can pull in the kind of audience like she can. She's a pop culture icon right now. So she has a huge advantage when trying to pull in an audience, especially the younger audience who's already established in watching live streams and being interested in live streaming video games. So she kind of fits right into that mold perfectly. I don't know if there are a lot of other politicians that can. However, that's current politicians. Every year we see a new politician or politicians arise that, you know, young phenoms. It doesn't even matter from where. It doesn't even matter from what party. But we see these rise on the occasion. And I think that a lot of these politicians, upcoming especially, and probably even a lot of the older politicians who are not familiar with this, I do think there is going to be a scenario where live streaming, whether it's just playing Among Us or whether it's actually just chatting, I do see a lot of these platforms that are currently more or less being used for streaming video games. They are going to become a talking platform. They're almost going to, I don't want to say become its own news channel, because you're going to have such a variety to choose from. But just chatting, I can absolutely see a situation where it almost becomes like a programmed TV, where you know what time your politicians are going to be on there talking or playing games and whatnot. And it's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how that evolves over the, you know, the next 4, 8, 10 plus years. But I absolutely see a situation where AOC kind of started this off, but politicians 100% are going to start incorporating Twitch, Facebook gaming, YouTube. They're going to start incorporating all this into their strategy to reach young voters, because it is a tremendous way, as we've seen from this past election, as we've seen from the quote unquote damage, and I mean good damage, that AOC did by getting people to register to vote. It's phenomenal. And so it's going to have its place. Politics is going to have its place in live streaming in Twitch. Now, how much is that going to diminish now that the elections are kind of over? Is it going to be like an every 2-year thing when they have, the Senate races in 2 years and Congress races, or an every 4-year thing? I don't know. That remains to be seen. But just by watching the impact of, look at this, she had 5 million viewers, and this was like her first or second stream, maybe. That's crazy amount of reach. And by the way, you don't have to pay advertising to get that. In order to get on the airways or get on your television screens, you're funneling all kinds of marketing money in there. This is free public reach for politicians. Honestly, at this point, and you all tell me if I'm wrong, if politicians are not going to start incorporating means like this into their political strategy and campaign strategies, it's stupid. You're literally just you're just handing other people money and live viewers. It makes no sense. You're going to have to, politics is going to have to evolve into including things like this. Am I right?
I agree. So I think that AOC is way ahead of the curve here, and we need to see conservative, Democrat, people from all parties playing games on platforms like Twitch and live streaming if they want to stay relevant moving forward. And so, is this a part of a larger trend? I think it is. I absolutely think it is. I think they were motivated by the election, but the results here are insane. There's 5.5 million views on this. All she had to do was play video games for a couple hours and talk with people and get their political message out. And if you go over to Twitch statistics, if you will you go over to that game tab? We want to show some people on the podcast something we've never showed them before. There was the games breakdown circle.
Yep.
If you take a look at the games breakdown circle here,
this is the last 7 days, by the way.
This is the last 7 days. So this is, as the election is starting to cool down, just chatting is still dominating as the #1 category on Twitch still. Obviously, in the last 7 days, the election is cooling down now in this big, giant green chunk here. And no other game is even close. Not League of Legends, not Among Us, not Minecraft. Nothing else is even close to just chatting. So I think we're seeing a permanent move on the Twitch platform toward talk, toward politics, toward podcasting, toward discussing life, what have you, being the biggest category on the platform. Obviously, there's still going to be a huge place for gaming on the platform, but just chatting, I think, is here to stay. And I think that that chunk is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. I wouldn't be surprised to see it be 20% of the pie, 25% of the pie as we move into 2021. And that is going to change the dynamics of the platform. So everybody who's on Twitch, be prepared for Twitch to become less and less of a gaming and esports platform and more of a podcasting sort of talk radio, politics, I would say even religion. Be prepared for religion to be here, entertainment, you name it.
Live church services, right?
Live church services, you name it. All that stuff is going to come into Twitch because they're going to see the success of people like AOC, and it's going to change the dynamics of the platform forever. What do you think about that, Ross? That breakdown? Guys, look at this circle. Isn't that crazy to see that giant green chunk there? It's bigger than every single game on all of Twitch. That's the future of live streaming. The numbers tell us that is the future of live streaming right there. People just talking to the camera.
It literally 7.6% for League of Legends, which has been in second place for the last 7 days. 13.7 for just chatting. Like, that's a ridiculous number. And by the way, all other games combined is 33.6%. Just chatting is 13.3. There is going to be an occasion. Here's a good question, AWOL. How long before just chatting, this right here, surpasses all other games combined?
I'd say that'd be like 2022, probably.
Yeah, that's fair.
So 2022, it'll surpass it. So the question I want to ask you, Ross, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Ooh.
Is just chatting becoming a massive category on Twitch going to grow or decline the platform overall? Is this a good thing for the numbers or a bad thing for the numbers? Is this a good thing for the company of Twitch or a bad thing for the company of Twitch? Go.
Okay, off the top of my head, just by looking at the numbers here, these are average viewers. So, by the way, this isn't amount of people playing the game. This is people actually watching, and that's 13.7 of the entire Twitch puzzle here. So, I think it is a good move. I think it's going. The bad part is now that we're at the beginning of this. There's obviously a lot of people that have got into the beginning stages of just chatting. They've made themselves very successful. It's going to be difficult to grow on just chatting. So I think what could happen is maybe 2021, 2022, we see a major push, kind of like what we talked about yesterday with just chatting. But that also means the amount of new channels that are being created just for just chatting are going to start popping onto the platform. So I can see this plateauing maybe midway through 2020 and then kind of leveling out once people understand that it's so jam-packed with people participating in just chatting that it's going to be nearly impossible to grow. It's already nearly impossible to grow on just chatting, but I think by about that point, everything's going to level off. So I think this is a good move for Twitch. My question is when Twitch implemented this just chatting strategy, how much did they plan on actually boosting that and actually dedicating marketing towards getting people on their platform for just chatting or for a podcast or something like that? I'm actually curious because I don't believe Twitch saw this blowing up the way that it has.
I don't think they did either. And so one thing that I'm doing on Twitch, if you don't mind pulling up my page, I am personally, and all of you guys should be thinking about this as well. Obviously, some of you guys just copy the strategies we do here on the podcast and you try them yourselves. I have just yesterday actually started combining just chatting with games. And what I'm doing now is I'm doing a live games and coaching with AWOL. I just posted the link in the description in chat if you guys want to join me here. And what I'm doing is I'm coaching creators and live streamers live while playing a relatively slow moving game like a tactics game or a card game and what have you. I started testing it yesterday and I'm combining just chatting with video games because that's the trend. People obviously are interested in the video games, but people are probably more interested now as a trend in chatting with you about your expertise, about your opinion, about your life. And so what I'm doing is I'm coaching live streamers, gamers, creators, etc. on my page. So go to twitch.tv/AWOLgaming. Join me there. I'm planning on Monday through Friday when I'm not on a trip, going live at 3 p.m. Eastern and giving basically free coaching to creators. As you can see over there on the side, people are asking me questions about their channel, about their gear, about their software. I'm combining these two trends. Look, the numbers don't lie, Ross. People want you to chat with them. I'm not just talking about engaging with chat and just being funny and entertaining. I'm talking about making the chatting the main enchilada. That's the main thing you're doing is engaging with chat. And then the games are like a side dish. The entree is the just chatting now. I think that's the direction that Twitch is going. And I am doubling down on that on my Twitch account. And I want all of you guys to join me as I kind of grow with this strategy and teach you guys best practices We do a lot of Facebook gaming around here. I'm going to really be blowing up my Twitch again. I used to have 500 to 1,000 concurrent viewers on Twitch, and I'm going to be doubling down and bringing those strategies to folks. So think about your Twitch channel in a nutshell. Take away from this is think about your Twitch channel as a hybrid between just chatting and whatever game you're playing. That's the way you have to think about it now. You are no longer a gaming live streamer. You are now a just chatting plus gaming live streamer on Twitch. Why? Because the numbers demand it to be so. What are your thoughts on that strategy, Ross?
I like it. And again, here we go again, Ross. COVID-19 was kind of the perfect storm for just chatting. I think I said this yesterday too.
It's true. It's true.
It is. And because number one, not only does it, because it's like you said, AWOL at the beginning of the episode, people were losing their jobs. The virus is taking over. Everybody's looking for something else to do, even from a professional level. So they jump in. They're like, okay, this Twitch thing, I'm not really into video games, but here's an option where I can, get on here and talk, and I can try to make something of myself just by getting on here and talking to people. That's option number one. Not option number one. That's reason number one. Reason number two is we're all stuck inside. We've all been stuck inside for the past, 7-8 months now, and it's not going away anytime soon. People need companionship. They need conversations. They need to feel like they're hanging out with friends again. So not only is just chatting an important, let me say that just chatting should be an important part of your strategy, because this is a way to really develop relationships individually with individual viewers of yours. And you can use that opportunity to grow. When you develop friendships and stuff like that, the more likely they are to actually share your stuff. When you actually start taking interest in your viewers instead of having them just come take interest in you, it creates a whole nother dynamic that can create a snowball effect and keep rolling, where you have people coming in and watching you more and more because they're more likely to share that stuff. So yeah, I think it's a great strategy. I think it's a necessary strategy, honestly. As long as COVID's here and as long as we're all going to be stuck inside and not really be able to go out, I think it's important to do. It's important for you, it's important for your audience, and it's important for your strategy. It's a 3-win scenario here by including just chatting. Now, are you going to grow a lot off of it? You're gonna have to put a lot of work into it, because it's a very competitive space. But yeah, I 100%, I love the strategy that you're doing, AWOL, and I really, really hope that people take it seriously and listen and copy your strategy and take it on for themselves.
I agree. And the best part of a strategy, go ahead and post the link in chat there. The best part of any strategy, I'm actually wearing the t-shirt today. Here it is, guys. Boom, like Restream.io. That's what I did yesterday on Twitch and otherwise when I was streaming on my Twitch channel. I was streaming across all different avenues, and I was letting people know. I was doing the strategy we've been telling you guys about on the podcast. Restream to all of your avenues, but tell them the main conversation that's happening is on Twitch, and put that link at the top of your description to drive traffic over to your Twitch avenue. I did that yesterday. I got like 10 of my viewers to come follow me over there. They actually converted from the other platforms over to Twitch, and that was just in a random gaming Gears Tactics live stream I did, just trying this out from scratch. Use Restream.io. We put a link in the description. It is in chat. It's in the description as well. It gives us credit for you downloading and installing, and you can also get a discount using our discount code if you want some money off. Restream everywhere, and then drive traffic over to Twitch, because it is the most valuable live streaming platform, because it doesn't have an algorithm. And so you can play any game you want. You can switch to just chatting. You can do a lot of different things on Twitch, and it gives you flexibility. But don't leave Facebook gaming, don't leave YouTube, don't leave Periscope, don't leave Trovo, don't leave DLive out of the equation. Get the audiences there, drive it to Twitch. That's the strategy we're going to be running in 2021.